I stared at my phone in disbelief as the hotel manager's words sank in. Mrs. Foster, we found your children alone in the room. Your sister is nowhere to be found, and there's evidence of alcohol and other concerning items in the adjoining room. My name is Olivia Foster, and I'm a 34-year-old emergency room nurse. Just 12 hours ago, I've been called in for an urgent surgery case, leaving my 3 kids, Jake 11, Emma 9, and Lucy 7, in the care of my stepsister, Madison. We were supposed to be enjoying our first real vacation in 2 years at the Ocean View Resort in Miami, but a critical trauma case meant I had to scrub in. I can watch them, Madison had insisted, flipping her perfectly styled hair. We'll have a movie night, order room service. It'll be fun. You go save lives, sis. I'd hesitated. Madison was 24 and more interested in her social media following than actual responsibility. But I had no choice. The hospital needed me, and Madison was family. Your children are safe now, the manager continued, his voice professional but concerned. Security found them when other guests reported noise from the room around midnight. Your oldest, Jake, had apparently been trying to calm his sisters, who were frightened by some rowdy partygoers attempting to enter through the connecting door. My hands gripped the hospital break room table, surgical gloves still dangling from my scrub pocket. I'm leaving right now. Please keep them safe. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I ended the call and immediately dialed Madison. Straight to voicemail, of course. As I rushed to my car, my phone buzzed with a new Instagram notification. My blood ran cold as I saw Madison's latest story. She was dancing on the beach, drink in hand, surrounded by strangers. The timestamp showed it was from just 30 minutes ago. The drive to the hotel was a blur of rage and worry. How could she? I trusted her with my children, the most precious people in my life, and she'd abandoned them to party with strangers. The connecting door detail particularly disturbed me. Had her new friends tried to enter my children's room? I pulled into the hotel parking lot with squealing tires, not even bothering to park properly. The lobby was quiet at this late hour, but the night manager immediately recognized me and led me to the security office. My heart clenched when I saw my 3 children huddled together on a small sofa. "Mommy," Lucy cried, launching herself into my arms. Emma followed quickly, while Jake tried to maintain his preteen composure, but couldn't hide his relief. I held them close, breathing in their familiar scents, fighting back tears. Mrs. Foster, the security chief, stepped forward, his expression grave. "We need—" Madison rolled her eyes, pulling out her phone. "Look how many followers I got tonight. The kids were safe. They had TV and room service. You're just jealous because you never know how to have fun. Always so serious, so boring." "Ma'am," the security chief interrupted, "please step back. We've already contacted the police, and—" "The police?" Madison's face paled slightly. "For what?" "They're not hurt. Olivia, tell them it's fine. Daddy will be so mad if I get arrested." I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who joined our family when I was 15, who'd always been spoiled and indulged by her father, my stepfather, who'd never faced consequences for her actions, who'd put my children in danger without a second thought. "Not Madison," I said firmly. "I won't tell them it's fine, because it's not fine. None of this is fine." The next few hours were a blur of police statements and child welfare interviews. I sat with my kids in a private conference room the hotel had provided, trying to keep them calm while answering questions about Madison's guardianship status and the events of the night. "Ms. Foster," Officer Martinez said, reviewing her notes, "the substances found in the adjoining room are concerning. Your sister gave her key to several individuals she met on the beach. All of them fled when security arrived. Given the proximity to your children's room—" I closed my eyes, fighting another wave of nausea. The connecting door had been the only barrier between my children and a group of intoxicated strangers. If Jake hadn't been quick-thinking enough to barricade it. My phone buzzed continuously, my stepfather, Robert, alternating between threats and pleas. "You're overreacting. Madison is young. She made a mistake. If you press charges, you'll destroy her future." I silenced the phone, focusing instead on Lucy, who had finally fallen asleep in my lap. Emma was curled up next to me, while Jake sat protectively on my other side, still trying to be brave. A gentle knock at the door introduced another officer. "Mrs. Foster, we've completed Ms. Madison's booking. She's being charged with child endangerment and possession. Given the circumstances, the judge has agreed to process her tonight. Madison's high-pitched wailing echoed down the hallway. This is ridiculous. They're not even hurt. Olivia, tell them. Tell them I'm a good aunt. Daddy will be so mad at you for this. I stroked Lucy's hair, remembering how she used to adore Madison, how she'd beg her aunt to play dress-up or tea parties. Madison would always make excuses. She was too busy, too tired, had plans with friends. Yet she'd expected instant forgiveness when she needed a babysitter to maintain her social media presence. The hotel manager approached with paperwork in hand. Mrs. Foster, we've comped your entire stay and arranged a new room on a different floor. We're deeply sorry for this incident. He hesitated. We've also banned Ms. Madison and her associates from the property permanently. Jake spoke up, his voice small but steady. Mom, can we go home? I don't want to stay here anymore. Before I could respond, Robert burst into the room, his face red with anger. What have you done? He demanded. Madison's sobbing in a jail cell. She could lose her influencer contracts over this. After everything we've done for you. I stood carefully, passing Lucy to Jake. Everything you've done for me? My voice was ice. Like what, Robert? Like when Madison ruined my graduation party because she was having a rough day? Or when she borrowed my car and crashed it, and you made me pay for the repairs? She endangered my children. They're fine, he shouted, gesturing wildly. Kids are resilient. Madison just wanted one night of fun. Mr. Foster, Officer Martinez stepped forward. Please lower your voice. We have witness statements from hotel guests who heard your daughter giving her room key to unknown individuals, explicitly stating, my boring sister's kids are next door, but they won't bother us. Robert's face paled slightly. She was drunk. She didn't mean. She left 3 minors alone for hours, the officer continued. She gave strangers access to a connecting room. We found evidence of illegal substances. This isn't about one night of fun, sir. This is about criminal endangerment. Emma stirred, looking up at her grandfather with confusion. Why aren't you mad at Aunt Madison? She left us alone. Those people were scary. Robert deflated slightly, finally seeming to realize the gravity of the situation. Olivia, please, she's your sister. We can work this out privately, as a family. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. She's not my sister, Robert. She's your daughter, whom you've let get away with everything her entire life. But this time she went too far. She put my children in danger, and she's going to face the consequences. The bail hearing is tomorrow morning, Officer Martinez added. Given the circumstances, I'll pay whatever it takes. Robert interrupted. Just drop the charges. Please, Olivia. Think about what this will do to her social media career. I looked at my children, Jake holding Lucy protectively, Emma pressed against my side. I thought about what could have happened if Jake hadn't been so quick thinking, if the hotel security hadn't responded so quickly. No, I said firmly. I won't drop the charges. Madison needs to learn that her actions have consequences. My children's safety matters more than her follower count. Robert's face hardened. You'll regret this. I'll make sure of it. Are you threatening me? I asked calmly, in front of police officers, while I'm holding my children who were just endangered by your daughter. He stormed out, already dialing his phone, presumably calling his lawyer. I turned to Officer Martinez. What happens now? The DA will likely offer a plea deal, she explained. Given Ms. Madison's lack of prior record, she's looking at probation, mandatory counseling, and community service. But she'll have a record, and the child endangerment charge will impact her ability to work with brands that target families. I finished. Good. Maybe she'll finally learn something. The hotel manager stepped forward again. Mrs. Foster, we've arranged transportation to the airport if you'd like to return home early. All expenses covered, of course. I looked at my exhausted children and nodded. This vacation was over, but more importantly, so was my tolerance for Madison's behavior. No more excuses, no more looking the other way. She had finally crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. 3 months after the hotel incident, I sat in a courthouse, watching Madison face the judge. She'd lost her trademark confidence, her designer clothes replaced by a conservative suit that looked uncomfortable and foreign on her. Her social media empire had crumbled. It turned out brands weren't eager to work with influencers charged with child endangerment. Ms. Foster, the judge addressed her sternly. This court takes the endangerment of minors very seriously. Your actions demonstrated a profound lack of judgment and responsibility. Madison's lawyer had negotiated a plea deal, 18 months of probation, mandatory counseling, 200 hours of community service, and a child endangerment charge on her permanent record. She had avoided jail time, but her life would never be the same. Your Honor, Madison's voice quivered. I've lost everything, my followers, my sponsorships. I can't even get a regular job because of the background checks. The judge remained unmoved. Actions have consequences, Ms. Foster. You left 3 children alone in a hotel room while you partied with strangers. You gave those strangers access to a connecting door. Consider yourself fortunate that nothing worse happened. Robert sat behind Madison, his face a mask of barely contained rage. He hadn't spoken to me since that night, except through his lawyer. He tried everything, threats, guilt trips, even offering money, to get me to drop the charges. When nothing worked, he cut all contact, even with my children, who had once called him Grandpa. After the hearing, Madison approached me in the hallway. She looked different, smaller somehow, without her usual bravado. Olivia, please, can't we just move past this? I said I was sorry. Are you? I asked quietly. Sorry for what, exactly? For endangering my children? For lying to me? Or just sorry you got caught and lost your followers? She flinched. The kids are fine. Nothing actually happened to them. Thanks to Jake. I corrected her. Thanks to hotel security. No thanks to you. My 11-year-old son had to protect his sisters from drunk strangers trying to break into their room. Lucy still has nightmares. I didn't think. No, you didn't think. You never do. And for years we've all enabled that. But not anymore. Not when it comes to my children's safety. Tears welled in her eyes. What am I supposed to do now? My whole life is ruined. I shook my head. Your life isn't ruined, Madison. It's just different. Maybe now you'll learn what real responsibility means. As I walked away, Robert called after me. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed our family. I turned back one last time. No, Robert. You and Madison did that when you decided her social media career was more important than my children's safety. That evening at home, I found Jake helping Lucy with her homework while Emma practiced piano. The scene was so normal, so peaceful, exactly what that night at the hotel could have destroyed. Lucy looked up and smiled, the shadows finally fading from her eyes. Mom, Jake said, Grandpa Robert sent us friend requests on Instagram. Should we accept them? I sat down with my children, pulling Lucy into my lap. That's up to you. But remember, sometimes people who say their family don't act like it. Real family protects each other. Emma stopped playing, turning on the piano bench, like when Jake blocked the door. Exactly like that, I said, smiling at my son, who blushed but looked proud. I don't want to follow Grandpa, Lucy declared. He wasn't mad at Aunt Madison for leaving us. He was mad at you for protecting us. Out of the mouths of babes. I hugged her closer, amazed at how clearly children can see through adult nonsense. Later that night, after the kids were in bed, I found an email from Madison. Her counselor had suggested writing letters as part of her therapy. The message was long and rambling, but one part stood out. I never realized how selfish I was until I lost everything. Dad always fixed my mistakes, covered up my bad choices. That night at the hotel, I really thought it was no big deal. Just another mess Dad would clean up. But seeing Jake's face in court, hearing about Lucy's nightmares, I finally get it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know I understand now. I didn't respond. Maybe someday we'd rebuild some kind of relationship, but for now, the distance was healthy. My children needed to see that love doesn't mean tolerating dangerous behavior, that family bonds shouldn't override personal safety. A week later, I received an unexpected call from the hospital's HR department. Robert had tried to get me fired, claiming I was unstable and vindictive. My documentation of the hotel incident, the police reports, and the court records had shut that down quickly. His last attempt at retaliation had backfired spectacularly. My phone still buzzes occasionally with messages from flying monkeys, distant relatives, or family friends telling me I'm too harsh, that family should forgive family. I delete them without responding. The only forgiveness that matters is my children's peace of mind. Looking at them now, Jake reading his sister a story, Emma showing Lucy a new piano piece. I know I made the right choice. Sometimes protecting your children means standing firm, even when it costs you other relationships. Sometimes it means letting go of toxic family ties to preserve what really matters. Madison's social media accounts are mostly dormant now. Her last post was a vague apology about learning and growing. Meanwhile, my children are thriving, secure in the knowledge that their mother will always put their safety first. That's the only influencer status that matters to me.